I'm recording now. Okay, so let's see here. So our next speaker, I always like to let me before you share, hold on. I'm gonna put Charlotte's picture up here and share it. I can find it. There we go. All right. So we're going to show a video of Charlotte. Charlotte's one of the co-authors, and her chapter is titled "The Color of Life: A Journey Through Healing and Meaning." So I'm going to have you go ahead and share her video.
Good afternoon. If there's one message I hope readers carry with them, it's that healing is not about becoming someone new or um, being the perfect parent. It's about returning and coming home to the person you always were before fear, before shame, or the survival role that you had to undertake. And, those parts of you that perhaps hardened, the softest parts of you. And so, therefore, trauma's shaped and does shape so much of our life and so much of our patterns, but it never erases our essence. And we're not broken, we're adapted. And so our nervous system learns to protect us in the only ways they know how to. And because these adaptations were learned, they can also be unlearned with compassion and connection and patience. And so, how this connects for me within the book, and what I would like readers to know, is that every family carries a story, and they carry this story throughout. And within every story is the possibility to repair. You know, I see families, and our stories very similar to how I'm visual, so forgive me, to how a tree grows. A tree will always bend to the light. So even if you've endured years and years of growing within the shadows, we will always lean towards healing and warmth and safety. And that's what I see within families and especially co-parenting. Children do not grow in families, they grow from them. And so a child's nervous system is shaped long before they have language, as we know, and they borrow. They borrow our regulation, they borrow our presence and our safety. And so when co-parenting is fractured, a child, will feel it long before they're able to articulate it or understand it. They'll feel it within their body. I know I certainly did. And so, we live in a time where there's stress, there's disconnection, there's generational pain that just keeps getting louder and louder and louder. And the world pulls families apart with financial pressures, busyness, overwhelmness, emotional fatigue all the time. Strengthening co-parenting is not simply about managing schedules. It's about offering and creating children with a foundation that they don't internalize the adult storms. They don't internalize it as it's their fault. So when adults and parents learn to, collaborate, regulate, communicate, even imperfectly, they will create an emotional climate where children can thrive. And co-parenting, certainly for me, is not about two perfect parents. It's about two human beings choosing again and again to put the child's nervous system first. And honestly, I speak this not as an expert looking in from the outside. I was someone who lived through those fractures as a child and then later navigated them as a co parent. I learned that connection is the medicine that we all need that perhaps we didn't receive. And strengthening these bonds now is how we stop passing down those same old wounds. What gives me hope is that change can happen at any moment in a family system, even one tiny moment of truth or love or vulnerability. Vulnerability is just that beautiful unspoken strength. It can really shift generations. I've worked with families who have felt completely torn apart, utterly lost and convinced that they were too damaged or broken or too divided to heal. And then something astonishing happens. One person will soften. One person will tell the truth. One person will apologize, or another one will start to understand their own triggers. And then one person will just learn to pause and breathe instead of reacting. Healing, in my experience within families, doesn't begin with perfection. It begins with courage. It begins with one very brave nervous system choosing safety over survival each and every time. And then that shift causes a ripple. I've seen laughter return to homes, that once echoed far too much tension and conflict. I've seen children flourish, especially when a parent learns just to breathe differently. I've seen adults reparent themselves, myself included, with a tenderness and a steady presence that perhaps they never had. That hope, I believe, is already inside each and every one of us. It's quiet, but it's also this stubborn belief that love can keep growing again and again and again, even if the past carried so much hurt. Speaking to parents today, I would literally take their hands and I would say, you are not alone. And nothing about your pain makes you unworthy of love or giving love for that matter. To the parent, you are not failing, you are learning. The parts of you that have perhaps felt overwhelmed, ashamed, or reactive were born from old wounds, not from a lack of love. And your child does not need perfection, trust me. They need your presence, they need your repair, and they need your humanity. Every moment you try again is shaping their future safety. And to the child, so whether you are 5 or 50, what happened around you was never your fault. Your body did what it needed to do in order to survive. Your sensitivity is not a flaw. It's just evidence that perhaps you were carrying too much. And you deserved protection, not pressure. And you are allowed today and every other day to begin your healing. Families to me are living ecosystems. When one part heals, the whole environment will begin to shift. And for me, within my own beautiful family, with that level of compassion, with those boundaries, truth, connection, even the most wounded, family can grow something rather beautiful.
That's awesome. Very well done.
What a poignant message.
Yes.
Yeah, that was beautifully delivered. I love that. Very good.
I,
That's a really good. Is that our last author?
Yeah.
We covered everybody. That's a beautiful note to end on.
I'm gonna let's see. Hold on. Yeah, I don't want to. Um, one of the things I'd like to say is, that our um, there's a couple things I would want to say that I really is that's the things that we go through, that we've gone through, are things that we've inherited, that didn't happen, probably didn't even happen, um, just to us. There were things, there were traumas, there were dysfunctions that happened to our parents and our parents' parents. And it's our job, once we become aware of what it is, that it is not functional, it's our responsibility to somehow filter it out in, you know, our generations that are subsequent to us. Um, because and that was actually looking at, in past books that I've contributed to, when I look at the dysfunction, how it felt like I was being blindsided by it. There were clues. There were clues from my upbringing. There were clues from my heritage, that they were little seeds all along that led to me. Um, and they didn't have a choice. It was like Dr. Jamie. He came from um, the generations before that didn't really focus on such things. They had a certain way of handling things clinically, and that weren't not necessarily as effective as they're discovering that there's modalities to use and heal and restore people now, that we didn't have a generation ago. It's kind of like, like Dawn and we've talked about cybersecurity, and we didn't grow up around computers. We grew up around typewriters. Um, so we had no context for training, learning, much less teaching the next generation about stranger
Yeah.
danger technology. But our predecessors tried to talk about stranger danger strangers in the alley. So there's always
And
going to be
these
something.
days, everybody's a stranger.
Mhm. So it's
Everybody.
important. It's so important that we quickly come up with something, and we teach that generation those things, even if we do it wrong, at least do it.
At least, yeah.
And the other thing is the reason that I go back to the fact that there was a time 25 years ago when I was being marginalized from my children's life, because I didn't the marriage I was in was not functional. And when I look back, again, going back to the generations, I realize that my husband had the seeds of um, that led him to think that the answer was to correct a situation he was not wanting, to happen. He didn't want me ending the marriage. His answer is, if we just replace her in the children's life, then
Yeah.
that was the answer. And I realized, because his father had been replaced. He didn't have his father, and his father was replaced. So he was just doing the only thing his subconscious knew to do. Um, so, and that was the impetus to calling my organization Kids Need Both. And in a way, by saying kids need both, it was saying these kids need you too. Even, even if you're my enemy right now, those kids need you too. Because one thing for sure is those kids without a living example in front of them, they have nothing to learn where they come from and the wiring that's inside of them if you cut out one parent out of their lives, um, they're almost doomed to repeat it without an example of why not. So anyways, it's been a great day. It's been a really great day of great conversations and a great day of launching ourselves into international best-selling authors for 22 authors, some of which are first-time authors. That's very exciting.
And what a perfect book to be in everyone's library. It's a perfect tool that they can add to whatever they're using now to complement the insights from all of our 22 authors, giving them the impetus to seek healing and help and becoming, the best individual they are, in their children's lives. And it just builds on the strength of our first book, Overcoming Trauma and Family Law Cases, to really give back to those so many millions of individuals globally and that are looking for help. And I think we're off on the road to do that with our second book.
I agree. It's going to be, I'm very excited about it. I know we've already hit number one in at least one of the categories so far. We're going to broadcast the recordings again over the weekend to and keep monitoring the statistics in hopes of getting number one in multiple categories. I'm pretty excited about that.
I know we're in the top percentiles in the divorce category, in the law category, in the family law category, in the divorce and separation family law category, in family relationships, and certainly, number one in trauma and psychology. So a lot of great areas for individuals, seeking help. Our book is right out there for them. and a,
Yes.
and a perfect buy at this pre-launch price so that readers can take advantage of a 99-cent Kindle price and low publisher's price for paperback and hardback. So it's a great time to go out and buy the book and give it to your friends for the holidays or colleagues and spread the word.
Yes, I would think it's a great thing to, gift someone the libraries. That would be really, now that we have a Library of Congress number for the book, and yeah, just spread the word. It could really bring hope to someone in a dark place, especially during the holidays.
Yeah, and if we keep checking Amazon throughout the day, throughout the night, and anybody up in different time zones, different time frames, if you do see us in the number one position, just grab a screenshot and make sure we get that so we can document where we've received number one at. I know we got trauma and psychology or trauma psychology, but we're looking for the other two if possible. So that
That would
would
be
be
great.
amazing.
Danner, I have a couple questions for you before we adjourn. What's the one message you hope readers, take away from your chapter that you've written in the book?
Who are you asking?
You, Danica.
Oh,
Oh yeah, we should be including her.
Oh, goodness. Let's see, what are the readers of, I think the biggest thing, I've got everybody's interviews in my head. Um, it's really about maintaining bonds, being able to um, restore your relationships. Your relationships are restorable. Um, and some of the things that help me the most is to get myself connected with coaches, people who are going to just be my support system and never see me as a victim, always see me as an overcomer and a person of strength that helped me to get there and knew how committed all the people that I surrounded myself with, I made sure that they were not voices of hate and that hated my enemies. I didn't need anybody to tell me to encourage that. It's all about hope.
And
So
why do you think that's so important right now in society?
why is that so important? I think we're living in a very polarized society globally. There are us versus them. You've got people who their religion, their politics, everything is us versus them. I mean, I have really good friends that one of the reasons I've kind of stepped away from Facebook this year is sometimes I peek into it and I see dear friends that are creating you know us versus them environments politically. I have dear friends that are on the left and dear friends that are on the right, and they they attack a label, and then that's personal. And if you bring it down to family, especially family conflict. You see it as well. Maybe it's a factor of being human, how it's much easier to just clump people up and into us versus them, but it's not. You really have to go and look across the aisle and say, how do they look like me? How are they, their hurts, their feelings, um, how are they as human as I am?
Kids Need Both is, a national nonprofit that works across all 50 states. What gives you hope for families who you see, are struggling today and that you're working with?
Um, I've been in this work for about 25 years, and I have seen the movement grow. I've been that person who was blindsided by a custody battle I didn't ask for. I and I was begging for resources, and I felt very alone with people, guidance counselors and psychologists and judges and attorneys who had no understanding of what I was going through. So I felt very much like this crusader that had to gather up suddenly quickly become this professor in the topic and then educate all the people who were the decision makers in my whole case. And I've gone from there to now where I see organizations have cropped up. We've been able to, for the last several years, we have this strategic alliance of organizations, the Hope for Families Alliance, and there's multiple organizations who they get it. They get the importance of the work. We have organizations that are doing legislative work to change laws across the nation or actually across the planet. There's organizations. So I've seen that gives me hope that it's not all for naught. 25 years, and so I'm not alone anymore.
If you could talk to a parent and then also to a child going through this right now, what would you want them to know that's important for them?
Um, I'd first say to the parent, I'd say, well, first of all, it's not going to be a quick fix. And you've got to be in it for the long game. They hold on to the fact that you know your child is part of who you are, and you love them unconditionally, no matter what they're going through and even how they treat you. Um, you've got to be there for them. And you're not, a lot of times, you've got to be creative in the way that you try to reach out to them. Don't think that your answers are going to be given to you by a judge, because even if a judge rules in your favor and your child rejects you, what have you won? But if you've spent your time investing in trying to be there lovingly, unconditionally with your child, showing up and sitting in the back row of the basketball bleachers so they can see that you care enough to be there, it's just consistency. It's doing what you know to do, and you're not looking for the quick payoff.
And for children that are struggling, with the unfortunate circumstances that they've encountered, what message would you give to children, teenagers or young adults?
I would say that they need to give grace to their parents. They need to see that I always say that all of us, no matter how old we're all 5-year-olds at our core. It doesn't matter how we're just you and I are just grown up 5-year-olds. We still have the same wants and needs and hurts and fears that our 5-year-old had. We just have a easier way of masking that, or a more polished way. And give your if you're a child who's frustrated, maybe with both two parents that are not getting along, um, avoid villainizing them and realize that they're human beings. They were never. You can go a whole lifetime and you're never going to get it right.
Yeah, I think I love what you said about that. We're 5-year-olds with the frontal lobe. That's literally the only difference.
Yep. Yeah.
And what a perfect way to end, because, thanks to your efforts, Danica and Dawn, with the anthology, volume one and volume two, we're truly building bridges of hope for parents and children of all ages to stop the generational harm from continuing on. And this book definitely addresses that, with the great collaboration of our 22 authors that have contributed their deep resources and knowledge through shared experiences to bring hope to families. So thank you, Danica.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you to the authors. Thank you for those who are supporting the authors and then the organizations behind them. And definitely grateful for you and Dawn in getting this thing across the finish line. All right. Well, have a great evening, and we'll try to get all this technology out there. All
Yes,
right.
we will. All right. Talk to you later.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thanks, Danica. Bye.